Good morning, and thanks for having me on your show.
So, Dolapo, it's no longer news. Since yesterday, when the Group Managing Director of the NNPC made that comment, there's been back and forth on this particular issue. A lot has been said about the challenges with regards to gas. What for you at this time are the critical issues or the critical challenges?
Okay, I mean, there are three I can think of off the top of my head. Number one is the insecurity in the Niger Delta. Number two is the lack of gas infrastructure, talking of pipelines, processing plants, compression plants. And then the third one is, of course, the pricing of the gas, gas pricing. I think those three things are sort of related in a way, but it's essential that we sort out those three areas before we're able to achieve 15 billion cubic feet of gas by 2020, which is what the NNPC is trying to achieve. At the moment, we're pumping 7.2 billion cubic feet of gas per day, and that's not enough for what we need.
But taking a look at the issues, as you've actually mentioned, and these are issues that we already had on the front burner for a very long time. And on social media yesterday, there was a very strong engagement with regards to some of the policies and laws and regulations that are needed at this time to be implemented to make sure that most of the gloomy situations as we see it, being talked about on social media and even, one-on-one discussions are actually addressed. For you, the policies that have been on ground for a very long time, should they what aspects do you think, should they be jettisoned, should they be reformed or reenacted, as the case may be?
Okay, and it's good you mentioned the engagement on social media yesterday. I think it was a good start because, yesterday we had the technical advisor to the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State for Petroleum on social media yesterday to answer some questions about the roadmap for the oil and gas sector. And yesterday was really about regulation and policy. So one of the things he said, which I think was vital, was that there's going to be a new set of policies for the gas sector, for the oil sector, I think which are going to be inculcated in the drafts of the the segments of the PIB that are going to be passed that are going to be released to the legislature over the next few months. And I think a lot of things will change. I think that there's some discussions around the fact that there has to be some sort of institutional framework that ensures that the gas sector is well developed and regulated and coordinated with the power sector to ensure that, for instance, our drive to ensure that we get more power using our own gas is coordinated. Because at the moment, it doesn't look like we have that coordination. We don't have the right amount of investment in gas to ensure that we can sustain power at the level we want power to be. So even if we build all the generation plants tomorrow, we don't have all the gas to supply those generation plants. So there has to be some coordination. I think it's fantastic that it's been driven by the Petroleum Ministry, and I think that would work. So, and you will need, of course, a policy and some sort of institutional framework to drive that to happen. So for me, one of the critical things that has to be addressed and has to change, again, is regarding the pricing of gas. At the moment, it's not enough to encourage investments in infrastructure. While we recognize the fact that a lot of gas is being flared, and of course that looks like it's cheap, the cost of ensuring that gas can actually be processed and then transported to where it is required, it's not as cheap as it is to flare it. So it takes a lot, and I think the current $1.80 to $2.50 doesn't really incentivize investment in infrastructure. So that has to change, and that may require an institutional approach as well.
But what approach are industry players taking at this time?
Well, at the moment, it's there's a structure on ground, and you notice that even right now, the power plants are not guaranteed supply of gas because there isn't enough gas to go around in the system. I think at the moment, the framework again also too is still a best effort basis. It's a case of if I can get the gas to you, I get the gas to you, but we don't have effective gas supply contracts that can be enforced in the industry, which is a bit of a downer, I think.
Dolapo, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.